Welcome for the second time in less than a month, Grant Cohn from the Press Democrat, who we had on for our 49ers team preview, but the word has gotten out that this guy is actually possibly even more an expert on all things Oakland Raiders, Oakland possibly soon to be Las Vegas Raiders, and so he's going to come and be our guru on the Raiders as well. Grant, thanks for doing the show again.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, man.
Anytime. Do you think maybe we could just gradually kind of expand your sphere of influence and you could maybe do everything west of the Rockies for us?
I can do whatever you want for you.
That's awesome. I'm gonna take you up on that. I'm not sure exactly what it's gonna look like, but I'm gonna take you up on that. I got kind of a follow up on our hypothetical from last time. You agreed that you would you said you'd probably die from a hit from Marshawn Lynch. I'd say about 2/3 of the beat writers that I've asked actually decided they'd take the hit, which I find increasingly ridiculous the more I hear them say it, but that's what they say. They're all like, "Oh, I would heal." Anyway,
they say that until it would be a reality, and then they wouldn't do it.
Right? They wouldn't. You know what? As a matter of fact, I think I'm going to come out and say I'm a Patriots fan. Anyway,
because Lynch didn't go easy on him.
No, of course he's
not at all.
Yeah, and I'm assuming you've been seeing him a little bit because does the guy look like a monster out there?
I haven't actually been to Raiders practice yet. I'll go to training camp, but from everything I've heard, he looks fresh, which is not surprising because he took the year off. And this offseason, it came down to them either signing Lynch or Peterson. And I thought Peterson would have been a good signing, but Lynch is definitely better for a few reasons. He's younger. He's not coming off a knee injury, and he's fresh. I think he's going to be a big addition for the Raiders this year. He's the best addition this offseason, clearly.
I think I agree with you.
That was actually our first question. I don't know if you're going to build on the hypothetical, but now that we're on the
I was going to.
train,
I got sidetracked. Maybe I'll ask him maybe that'll be my closing question.
Perfect.
Go ahead.
All right. But yeah, since we're already rolling with Marshawn Lynch here, he looks fresh. Do you think that's more of a result of him just being out for a year? Is that going to more help him or harm him? A lot of the fantasy owners are really quabbling. He's been out for a year and things are going to, 31-year-old back out of the league for a year. It's really hurting him. But what do you think? Is that going to actually help him or what?
I think it's more of a positive than negative. I think it's definitely going to help him. He's older. There's not a lot of history of older backs doing well, but it's like he has been preserved. He's like, what is he, 31? It's more like he's 30. I think the year he was really breaking down toward the end in Seattle, he needed time off. He got the time off. Using the logic that it'd be bad for him to take a year off, that means you'd rather have Adrian Peterson, who's coming off a serious knee injury. That doesn't make any sense. I'd rather have the fresh back with fresh legs. No question. I think Marshawn Lynch was a big time signing. He's going to be a huge difference maker for them, and I'll explain why in a minute.
Why do you think so? Let's hear it.
Yeah, explain it now. We want it now.
Here's how it works. Last year, the way you stopped the Raiders was to double Crabtree and Cooper. You wanted to play too deep. So safety's cheating towards both wide receivers. So that leaves 7 men in the box. Are you going to leave 7 men in the box against Marshawn Lynch? Because the Raiders are going to give it to him and he's going to kill 7-man box. So now defenses have a real problem. Do you play 8 in the box? And then if you do, which wide receiver are you going to leave in single coverage, Cooper or Crabtree? So there's really no correct way to defend the Raiders' offense now. And the decision-making process for the offensive coordinator and for the quarterback, Derek Carr, just got a lot easier. They can just see what the defense is doing. Oh, you're going to play too deep? I'll run it. You're going to play 8 in the box? Let me find my one-on-one matchup. Boom. This is going to be one of the best offense, a better offense than it was last year significantly.
And it was a juggernaut last year.
Right.
Real quick, before we move into the passing game, what kind of work do you expect from Marshawn Lynch? I know last year it was kind of like a 3-headed committee. Do you see a committee again, or is this going to be a clear featured back? What type of workload do you see for Lynch?
That's a good question because for all the positives I've just said about him, how he's fresh and how he's going to have 7-man boxes, I don't know if I would invest in him in fantasy because the entire goal for this team is to keep Lynch fresh for the playoffs. They're playing for the playoffs, and I don't think he's going to get many games where he has more than 20 carries. I think they're going to want to keep him below 17. 17 would be probably the tops. And if you think about situational football, they'll give him the ball early in the game when it's close. But if they have big leads in the second half and they want to run the ball to run out the clock, they're not going to give I would imagine they wouldn't give it to Lynch because that would just be a waste. You'd be overusing him, running him down, grinding him down in a game you already have won. So I think he's not going to get – ideally, they're not going to use him too much during the season. Now, a lot of running backs only get the ball 16, 17 times a game and do well. But I think that's going to be about his cap.
Okay. What do you think his numbers are going to look like, or are you willing to stick your neck out on that?
Well, I can't do the math. I haven't done the math, but if you say, let's say he averages 17 carries a game and averages more than 4.5 yards a carry and gets red zone carries, gets about 10 touchdowns, maybe he'd be a better fantasy option than I give him credit for. I mean, what does that come out to? More than 1,000
maybe
yards,
like
right?
1,000 yards, 10 TDs, something like that.
Yeah, that's okay. So yeah, that's a nice running back to have.
Solid running back too, even low end running back one. I can take that, and even 10 TDs. That could be. You're talking about this being one of the best offenses in the leagues, and he's one of the best goal line hammers. Could be a conservative approach. 10 TDs. I think maybe even 12 is realistic. More than that potentially. I love Marshawn this year. I think it's a great set.
I think he's going to average a lot of yards per carry because closer to 5, just because he's going to have so many 7-man boxes. That's a pass-first team, and teams are worried about Derek Carr and the wide receivers. Marshawn Lynch is going to gouge defenses.
I love that.
Just for the record, I went to buy beer yesterday, and I was wearing my Beast Mode shirt, and some guy started talking shit to me. I forgot that I live in New England. All right, here's another one for you. Amari Cooper, almost certainly going to be the first Raider drafted in fantasy drafts, but he was out-targeted and outscored by his fellow receiver, Michael Crabtree. Read a few reports, the tide's shifting. I think I heard Derek Carr say the dog was coming out in Amari Cooper, which, gets people like us pretty excited. I mean, is he really going to break out this year? What are you hearing from him? And do you think that anything's going to change with the amount of targets between him and Crabtree?
Well, there's a few things to consider here. First, there's the new offensive coordinator. The old offensive coordinator, Bill Musgrave, used Cooper in a specific way. He almost only called passes for Cooper on first and second down, and then he would call passes for Crabtree in the red zone and on third down. So Crabtree was really the go-to guy. When they needed a big play, they went to Crabtree. Now they have a new offensive coordinator, Todd Downing, who should switch that up more and have less of a ironclad tendency. Another thing to consider is the Raiders have more weapons this year. So the emphasis and the goal for Carr and Downing is going to be to spread the ball around. The emphasis isn't going to be to just feed Cooper. It's going to be to spread the ball around because there's going to be one-on-one matchups if they just find them. The final thing is, like I said with Lynch, Crabtree is similar. He's in his 30s, and while he's a good player, he really was gassed at the end of the year, and he was terrible in that playoff game. He looked slow. He looked old. He had nothing left, and the offense was better when he got hurt and Andre Holmes replaced him. So they have to keep him fresh for the playoffs, just like they have to keep Marshawn Lynch fresh. So with that in mind, I believe that going over to Crabtree a little bit, they're going to have to not only throw the ball to him less, but play him less. He's going to have to see less snaps. And he's going to get time off, and he'll be replaced by Cordero Patterson. So all that to me means that, yes, Cooper will be the number one receiver, and it won't be Crabtree. So, yes, I believe that this could be a breakout year for Cooper. At the same time, he's not going to dominate the targets. The ball is definitely going to get spread around, and they're going to run the ball a lot too with Lynch and these other scat backs that they have.
So how do you see the numbers shaking out between those two receivers then, the two studs they have?
That's a good question. Cooper should lead the team in targets. Clearly, he should have between 1,000 and 1,200 yards, but he's not going to be like – I wouldn't imagine him to be like a 120 catch guy with 1,500 yards. It's not going to be a one-person offense. It's going to be spread around. Mm-hmm. Crabtree more in the 80 catch range.
Alrighty. Let's go to the guy that's throwing these guys the rock, Derek Carr. So
MVP, baby. MVP.
And that was singing his praises all last year to be the MVP. Maybe he will be this year. He is an RSJ favorite. For whatever reason, the experts rank this guy as the number 11 QB. We have him up as our 5th ranked QB. We're really high on this promotion of Todd Downing because he's been his QB coach, and we think that's always a positive when they have that relationship. But what are your thoughts on Derek Carr this year? Are we crazy having him that high, or are the experts wrong? What do you think about him?
No, I think 5 is is fair. He clearly has the talent to do anything. I mean, the question with him isn't talent. Where he can take the next step is his decision making. A lot of times he trusts his arm so much and he trusts his receivers that he'll throw a lot of 50-50 balls. He'll just throw it up, and he needs to get past that, and I think he will. He needs to throw people open and not just throw it up and hope for the best. I don't know exactly what his completion percentage was like last year. What was it? Was it in the low 60s?
I think so, like 62 or 63-ish.
62. Yeah. I believe that this year he'll be 67 minimum, just because he's getting better. And as I said before, he has more weapons. He doesn't have to force it up to Crabtree, throw it to Crabtree and hope he makes a catch in double coverage. He can find Jared Cook one-on-one against a linebacker. He can find Marshawn Lynch out of the backfield or one of the other running backs out of the backfield. So I believe this is the year that Carr is going to be more efficient. He could complete 70% of his passes this year. So I do think he's going to be one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the league.
To me, number 11, it just sounds insane, Wolf. I'll just tell you right now. I don't know how anybody could have him that low. I can't think of 10 guys better than him.
He has all the physical talent, and he has some of the best weapons in the league. What more do you want?
I agree. And what do you think about the offensive coordinator switch? I know you mentioned it's going to be less ironclad and different things, but what does that mean for Carr and just this offense as a whole? What do you expect out of Todd Downing?
He has a lot to prove. I'm not sure exactly what to expect, but what he should be working on. Musgrave, I felt, underperformed. That was a good offense, but I almost felt he held it back. He wasn't very creative. You saw very standard splits with the wide receivers, 2 guys out wide, 1 guy in the slot. And it made it easier for defenses to shut down Cooper for large stretches of the game. I'd like to see Downing use Cooper more in bunch formations, put him in motion, just make it tougher for the defense to know where he is and jam him at the line of scrimmage and take him out of the game. So I feel that Downing will just be more creative and will give players like Cooper more free releases at the line of scrimmage.
Cool.
Nice.
All right. So in addition to Marshawn Lynch coming into town, and I mean, this seems extremely anticlimactic to me, but I'm hoping that maybe you'll set me straight on this. They also picked up Jared Cook, who was a guy that, when he was in Green Bay, there's a lot of expectations. People thought, like, this guy could be huge. He could be the real deal. I never really saw much out of him. I mean, occasional flash of brilliance, I guess. They call him a mismatch nightmare because he's so, athletic and he's versatile. He's a good blocker. He's a good pass catcher, supposedly. What are you expecting from him in Oakland? Do you think this is going to be a really good fit? Or, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm with you. I didn't think Jared Cook added that much to the Packers last year, and they upgraded big time by bringing in Bennett. And you mentioned him being a mismatch nightmare. He's not really a mismatch nightmare against safeties. But in this particular offense, like I said earlier, the safeties are more concerned with the wide receivers. So Cook will get a lot of matchups against linebackers.
That's true.
And in that context, he is a mismatch nightmare. He'll be one-on-one against linebackers, and the Raiders are going to like that matchup. So the way I see it is he's their de facto number 3 receiver. It's going to be Cooper getting the most targets, Crabtree getting the second most, and Cook getting the third most. He's going to get a lot of one-on-one matchups against linebackers, and he can win that matchup. I think he's going to get at least 6 or 7 targets a game. He would be a waste not to get that many targets. So if he's getting 6, 7, 8 targets a game, that's 4 or 5 catches a game. That's between 60 and 80 catches. So in terms of fantasy football, he's definitely a tight end you're going to want to invest in.
Okay.
And I think that's crazy. I agree with you. I have him as my 15th or so tight end. He's going to probably get a nice bump up if you're expecting that many targets with the number 3 weapon in Oakland. But he's right now ranked as the 25th tight end by the experts, which even if you weren't expecting more than 50 targets on the year, that it's such a good offense. They're going to be in the red zone to use that big body so much. So I'm with you. I think he's completely undervalued and should definitely be on radars more than he is. So that's good stuff.
Yeah, but that's completely – you have to believe that's just a result of him being a disappointment so many times in the past. If somebody disappoints you season after season, eventually you're going to stop ranking him so high out of the gate. I agree with you.
25th, though, the Oakland offense?
He's going to be better than 25th. I agree with you. I'm just telling you that's why he's so low.
Well, just break it down. I mean, Derek Carr's going to throw about 35 passes a game. 10 will go to Cooper. Roughly 10 will go to Cooper. Roughly 10 will go to Crabtree. Maybe 12 and 8. And then who's going to get the third amount? Who's going to get the third most targets? I mean, it's not going to be Seth Roberts. It's not going to be Cordero Patterson. I mean, they'll use Patterson, but it's not going to be Patterson. I think Cook is, without question, the number 3 receiver on that team.
Okay.
Well, a name you just brought up in there, Cordero Patterson, similar to Cook, has been disappointing in the past, both fantasy owners and in real life. But we're hearing some glowing things out there in Oakland so far. So what do you expect his role to be? Is he going to get any offensive snaps? Is he special teams only? Or what do you expect out of Cordero Patterson there?
From what I hear, they definitely want to use him not just as a special teams weapon. They want to establish him as a weapon on the offense, and not just on end arounds and fly sweeps and reverses. That's a given. They're also going to use him in screens and quick throws down the line of scrimmage where he can become a sort of a punt returner on offense. But he's going to give Crabtree a blow. He's going to let Crabtree sit on the bench and conserve himself, stay fresh throughout the season. And he's an interesting change of pace from Crabtree because Crabtree's a possession receiver who doesn't run fast. And while Patterson hasn't proven anything as a wide receiver, he's extremely fast. And he is a step down from Crabtree, but cornerbacks just can't go to sleep on Patterson because he'll run right by them. So they're going to use him in all the ways that you would expect, but they're also going to use him as a change of pace for Crabtree and someone that they would like to establish as a deep threat, although he hasn't been one yet in the NFL.
I mean, that's exciting stuff. A weapon of that type of athleticism with a quarterback of Carr's nature and to be used as extensively as you're saying. Definitely needs to be on more fantasy radars than he is right now. Nobody's really drafting him. He's going undrafted right now. It seems like a no-brainer as in the late rounds. We call them the penny stocks, the guys that you buy on the cheap and then just could explode. Seems like a guy you could throw in your flex and stuff right there. I'm excited about Patterson.
They're not. I was going to say they're not. They didn't get him to use him the same way the Vikings did. They definitely think they can get more out of him than he has shown so far.
So you're going to draft him in your draft, and half of the people in your league are going to laugh at you and tease you. Rightfully so. You deserve to be teased if you draft Cordell Patterson. But I agree with you. I think he's a great investment late rounds.
Absolutely. I think the last kind of weapons we want to go over, you mentioned they're going to try to keep Marshawn French and get Marshawn fresh, not French. They're going to try to keep him fresh. Who's going to be the guys giving him a blow? I know last year DeAndre Washington and Jalen Richard were involved a lot. Are both those guys still in the mix, or how is the behind Marshawn Lynch kind of backfield looking?
Yeah, they like Richard and Washington equally from what I understand. They're both the kind of guys that you'd like to give between 5 and 10 carries a game, because if you give Jalen Richard 10 carries, there's chances that one of those carries he'll break for a long run. Just give him enough opportunities, you'll get a home run out of it. Same with Washington. But they use him in specific ways. They use him on third downs, type of draw plays, in situations where there's a lot of pass rushers on the field and they can sort of burst by them up the field. Now, if Marshawn Lynch were to get hurt, that would change things immensely, because as good as Richard and Washington are, they physically can't run the same type of runs that Marshawn Lynch runs. It's just they're different types of running backs. They're smaller guys. They're scat backs. So if Lynch were to get hurt, either they would go to a totally pass-centric offense, or maybe this rookie that they got, what's his name, Hood from North Carolina.
Elijah Hood, yeah.
Yes, he's more in the Marshawn Lynch mold physically. And there is a lot of examples of rookie running backs doing well. You can't count on it. It's sort of a wait-and-see situation, but that would be the best they could hope for if Lynch needs to stay healthy, and that's why they're going to, I feel, be conservative with his usage during the regular season.
Nice.
Interesting. Elijah Hood, a name that's not on too many radars. Barely mine. I've heard of him, but that's an interesting
That would be
point.
the handcuff, in my opinion.
That's the
because
true
you
handcuff.
can't use those scat backs the same way you use Lynch. And if you have a lead late in the game, if you want to, pound the rock between the tackles and take time off the clock, that's Hood, not Richard.
Very interesting. What is it, because even Hood, maybe he's only a 6th-round pick or whatnot, but he's playing behind a huge line, a great explosive offense. Right. If Lynch were to go down, unfortunately, that could be a one of those late season guys that just ends up carrying people. So Hood's a great name to get onto people's radars. That's fantastic. Well, that's all we got for you. So
I want to ask predictions. I was going to say
predictions
because we had Chris Clark for the Locked On Chiefs podcast on recently, and he says the Chiefs are going to win the AFC West. I just wondered what you thought about that. I mean, do you think the AFC West is the best division in football?
No question.
Okay,
the
I agree.
AFC West, you could say there's 3 teams in the AFC West could make the playoffs, and the fourth place team you would consider the Chargers. That's a good team.
Yeah, they're like a 7-9, 8-8, like could beat anybody type team. Yeah, you're right. Okay, so what do you think the Raiders' record's going to be? Where do you see them going? What do you got?
Okay, so I'm going to preface this as saying I think the Raiders are going to win the AFC West, and I think that they are going to be in the AFC Championship game against the Patriots. I think the Raiders are clearly the second best team in the AFC. The Patriots, I thought, were the best team last year, and I think they got better this offseason. So I still think the Patriots are going to repeat. But I think that the Raiders are better than the Steelers. The Raiders are going to go to the AFC Championship game and win the AFC West. Now, with that being said, the Chiefs are still really good. They're going to be right there. It's going to be very competitive. And this is where it gets interesting for me, because last year the Raiders won 12 games. I think the Raiders are better than they were last season, and I think they're going to win fewer games. I think the most they'll win is 11. They could easily win 10, and it's possible they'll only win 9. Wow. And that's because while the AFC West is the best division, it's so competitive. All those teams have to play each other 4 times. 5 times. What is it? 6 times.
Yeah.
Excuse me. 6 times. So those are 6 hard games for all of those teams, whereas a team like New England gets to play the Jets twice.
And the Bills twice.
Those are 4 easy games right there. So to me, 11 games definitely wins the AFC West. And if you just go ahead and look at the schedule, which is what you always have to do. That's what the bookies in Vegas do. You always have to look at the schedule. There's the Raiders have to – the toughest opponent on the Raiders schedule is their schedule. The road schedule – just itself is grueling. They have to go to the East Coast 4 times, and then they only have 7 home games like last year. They have to play New England in Mexico,
right?
After back-to-back road games. That's tough. They open up in Tennessee. That's tough. They have to play the Eagles in Philly. Not easy. So you could easily find 7 losses on that schedule. Doesn't mean they're going to lose 7 games. And it doesn't mean they're a bad team, because I think they're the second best. They're a top 5 team in the NFL. So it's interesting. Earlier you had me on this podcast, and I said that I think the Niners are going to win 9 games. It's possible that the Niners and Raiders could both be 9-7, with the Raiders being drastically better. How about that?
That's honestly, when you say it like that, it makes sense. I still don't think the Niners are going to win 9. I think there's a better chance the Raiders win 9, although I agree with your assessment completely. They're a much better team than that. I feel like they're a 12-4 team that might go 10-6. But I see them in the playoffs, definitely, and I agree with you. I thought they were the second best team in the AFC last year. The Carr injury was just devastating. That's why I felt so sure calling him the MVP after that, because, you had the proof right there. You got this amazing team that turned into a garbage team like overnight once they lost him. So, man, I hope he stays healthy this year. I like him a lot.
Yeah. If you just go down that schedule, they have the Giants, they have the Cowboys, they have the 6 division games, which are all toss-ups. They have Washington on the road. They have Miami on the road. They have a lot of tough games.
Meanwhile,
yes,
the Patriots are going to play the Browns like 7 times or something like that.
Whatever you guys need to say to Justin.
It's real tough that they have to play the Patriots in Mexico City. Because if they were playing the Patriots in Oakland, you could say, okay, that's a game the Raiders could win. They'd have their home field advantage. But when you make their home game in Mexico, now they don't have a home field advantage. Now It's just a third road game in 3 weeks for the Raiders, and you figure that's a game they're going to lose. So that's a tough one.
That is a tough stretch. Well, Grant, what's the best way, just for our listeners, if they want to connect with you or pump your social medias and whatnot? How can our listeners connect with you? I
don't do Instagram. I'm not visual like that. I just do Twitter. You can write to me on Twitter at Grant Cohn, one word, GrantCohn, or you can email me at grantcohn@gmail.com. That's the best way to find me. I don't do Facebook. I just do that so I can look at people that I went to high school with, pretty much.
I hear that.
Fantastic. Well, thanks again for some great stuff. A lot of good sleepers to emerge from this. That Crabtree information that he might get rested a bit. Marshawn Lynch, he's fresh and he's looking good, but he also will be tried to keep that way all year, so his workload might not be there. Lots of just tons of interesting nuggets for fantasy owners, so we really appreciate it again.
Thanks, Grant.
Thanks for having me, man. Love coming on with you guys.
See you next time.